Welcome to another episode of The Calling and the Climb. We're continuing our conversations with entrepreneurs that have built businesses or are in the process of building businesses. And that's the case today with my guest. I am glad to welcome Will Andrews, the founder and CEO of Proscapes, who is right in the meat of building his business.
Yep.
And he's actually killing it. So I'm anxious to talk to Will today about how he got started and kind of what's been driving his success. So Will, welcome to the Calling and the Climb.
Super grateful to be here. Thank you for thinking of me. And there's a little bit of imposter syndrome going on right now, but I'm super grateful to be here and excited to kind of share my story and maybe dive in and hopefully help some people.
Absolutely. Well, hey, I get that. I had imposter syndrome for approximately 26 years, which is the time I had my business.
Right.
So nothing new. Nothing new.
Right,
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So as I mentioned, tell me, Proscapes. Tell me what it is.
Yeah, so we are a landscape maintenance company. We offer maintenance services mostly to commercial, HOA, multifamily properties throughout Middle Tennessee, really. So we service from Murfreesboro to Clarksville, and really kind of cover the mid-state. But we do everything from snow removal to shrub trimming, mowing, irrigation services, and the like. So our client demographic has changed in the last few years from residential kind of graduating to that commercial side. And we can talk about that in a little bit.
I kind of ask you about that because I full disclosure, I've known Will all of his life.
Right.
And so I know your parents, who are good friends of mine. And so I remember back in the day, you were mowing yards.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
This young kid mowing yards.
That's it.
And then the next thing I know is like Will's grown up and Will's got a company, 35 employees, pushing 40 employees now or whatever. So tell me how it got started.
Yeah, it is the starting, was way back when. It was my dad bought me a push mower when I was 12 years old, and there was this classic landscaper story. A lot of guys start out like that, just on the side throughout school, doing things on the weekends, learning how to work with your hands. And that's the way it started. And I had a few yards and made some money through high school. And I guess throughout college, it never really was a business. I was never starting a business to scale a business or grow a business.
Did you do it because you legitimately enjoyed the work, or you just wanted to make money?
I would say it was 50% enjoyed, and a lot of it was a had to.
I understand.
When you're in middle school and high school, you don't want to be out there doing it. But my dad was he's a hardworking guy. He kind of instilled those values in me. Son, you better get out there, and you've got to make your way in this world, kind of deal. So that's the way it started, and throughout high school, kind of became more and more. This was a really good way to make some money. My friends are making $8 or $12 an hour, and I can go work for a couple hours on Saturday and make be able to support myself and have a good time. It was mostly kind of just
doing it on your own,
pretty much on my own through high school and college. And
now I know your dad's in the real estate business.
Yes,
It does apparently. He's an entrepreneur himself.
Yes,
and so was there ever any pressure to kind of do the dad's business? Join your dad's business?
Yeah, there was not pressure from his side, but the opportunity.
Yeah.
There was always that. My grandfather was in it. My uncle and my dad were both in the business, and so it was kind of this family business that I had the opportunity to be a part of. And for a while, I did both. I was cutting some yards and helping my dad out. I would go a few days a week with my dad or my uncle and kind of learn their business. And to be completely transparent, it was the reason I chose the greening industry or the landscape side of things was because I disliked the office work of what my dad did so much. I just couldn't. I wanted to be outside. I wanted to be working with my hands and really just enjoy that side of it. And couldn't quite bear sitting at an office table, sending out invoices or whatever it might be for hours, and doing that side of things. So that's why I chose to pursue landscaping more. But for a while there, we were back and forth.
I understand.
And so I think a lot of young kids, probably that age, they're like, we're not really clear on what we're doing. It's just kind of, we're trying out a few things here and there, and something stick.
So when is it? Was there a point, like a defining point, that you realized I've got something more than just some way to make money during the summer? I may have a business.
Yeah.
When did that occur to you?
Yeah, I will say I'm just humble. Maybe I'm just like, that didn't happen till way later on.
Okay. That's all right.
But I felt like this was an opportunity for me, and more I just enjoyed this more, right? So as we get close to marriage, maybe things start getting real.
Okay.
But yeah, there was just from my perspective, this is what I wanted to be doing, and I was going to make a way to make this work.
Did you start hiring other people early on, or
we had some helpers here and there, and that was pretty much through college. You know,
Okay.
when I was working with my dad some, I was, a couple days a week I would have some help and work with him a couple days a week. So it was kind of an off and on thing.
Sure.
And then probably college, it started getting a little bit more serious. You know, in early 20s.
Yeah.
I started getting a few more yards, and it started picking up some traction. And then was, I don't know if we want to get into that now.
Well,
but
yeah,
marriage,
you mentioned marriage, so that kind of change. I guess that will change things.
Right, certainly.
You have to get serious,
yeah.
right?
I had a couple deals that I was doing real estate wise, and fortunate enough to purchase a house. And man, you've got to make some commitments really quickly. You get married, you've got a house payment to make. You're like, this thing's got to work. You know,
So that was sort of the impetus to say, let's do a business.
100%. And that's kind of when this is our 10th year in business. I've been married 10 years, and we kind of call it,
Wow.
I started taking it seriously 10 years ago. And even after that, I would say I really didn't know what I had until 5 or 6 years into what we were doing. So it started slow, but it started with kind of that spark of marriage of like, I've got a wife to take care of, I've got a house to pay for, potential kids coming.
Yeah.
And so it started getting really serious then. And then it became no more appraisal with my dad, no more real estate business. I'm going to stick to me. And that was, about 10 years ago.
Okay. So did your wife play a role at all in your business, either formally or informally? Or?
I wouldn't say formally, informally, the early years for sure. There was a lot of, I think keeping me in line was the biggest deal. You know, like I said earlier, I loved being out in the field. I liked cutting the grass. I liked doing the work, and I'm a blue collar guy. I liked being out there doing that stuff. But she would come about the 31st, 30th of each month and be like, you better get in here and start working on these invoices.
You need that. You need that.
Yeah, exactly. We've got, like I said, we got a house payment to make. You better start working on these invoices, because it was just me.
Yeah.
You know, and she was actually working with my dad at that time, and so she was just my constant reminder of, hey, you gotta, if you're going to make this thing business and you're going to actually take this seriously, there's more than one part of the business.
And would you say that was crucial to the
100%,
success,
100%,
getting it off the ground?
100%. If it had just been me, it certainly
Wow.
wouldn't be where it is today. Yeah.
So if there's some entrepreneur out there, it's kind of, I think we all bootstrap it up. You know, if you're bootstrapping your business, you're doing it yourself.
Right.
You do need someone. Not all of us can be good at everything. Right.
Yeah. And mine was just that background voice of saying, hey, we got to figure this out. Accountability.
Yeah.
I got to go home and report. Not that I had to report to her, but I wanted to make her proud. I wanted her to really be proud of what we were doing, and I wanted to be able to support her and give her, everything I possibly could.
So the name Proscapes, did that start then?
That was, yes, sir. Yeah,
Okay.
That was 10 years ago.
So what did Proscapes look like? And I'll just tell you this. So the other day I'm driving down the interstate in Nashville, and this big old truck, all this gear passed me, and it said Proscapes. I'm like, I think that's Will's company. I'm like, boom.
There we are.
Will,
yeah, that's us. Yeah,
I see it all over the city.
Right. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So obviously it didn't look like that in the beginning. What did Proscapes look like in the very beginning?
There was a lot of iterations. A lot of there was me and my truck in a trailer, and I parked my trailer in the backyard, and our whole backyard, when we first 3 or 4 years of our marriage, was just a wreck. It was like we would trim shrubs and bring them home and dump them in the backyard until we had time to go to the dump. And so my gracious wife was it's a lot of grinding years there of messes in the backyard, but it wasn't anything spectacular for a long time, and it was a lot of just like guts and glory and just trying to make our way through this thing. It was.
Did you have some deep pockets investing in your business?
That was probably the furthest stretch of the imagination.
Okay.
It was definitely, there was some tough years there.
Okay.
When we first started hiring some guys and realizing like, we've got a payroll to make this week, and how is this going to work? So just definitely some struggles there, and we didn't know what we didn't know. We were just just bidding work on what we thought it should be, and there was no real metrics behind it. We're just bidding work and paying our guys what we thought was a fair wage. There was many weeks where I was the last to get paid or I didn't get paid. You know,
I understand.
We're just gonna have to figure this out. And so we'll get it when the getting's good as much as we can. But right now, we're going to take care of our people first, and that was something that we started probably from the beginning.
Yeah.
You know?
What would you say in the early days? And I don't know, in my business, I put it, the beginning days about 5 years, and then the intermediate, and then the growth phase, big time growth phase or whatever. So I don't know how long your intro phase is, but what was sort of the hardest, most challenging thing that you faced in those early days?
The early days were, looking back now, there were so many. It was like, man, those were some easy times. You know, the money was certainly probably something that was tough. You know, it was just like, how in the world am I going to have the capital to buy that new truck to do the work for the people that I want to work for? You know, for the first 4 or 5 years, it was also really hard finding people. You know, but now we have kind of established ourselves, and people come to us, and we've built a really good team.
That's nice.
But before that, man, it was like I was knocking on doors on Sunday afternoon looking for help, and so finding people and then finding that capital to kind of reinvest in the business and grow this thing. Those were tough times. But looking back is nothing but joy. You know, I love those days.
Do you have any favorite stories from that time that, like, where a tight spot and you got through, and you sit down with Allison, you said, "Hey, we made it," or whatever.
Right.
Any story?
Man, there's got to be so many, but I just look back of just being in the truck with the guys. Those are the fun years that I'll probably learn so many lessons of, like, teamwork and how to build a team, and just really hard work. It was like that to me was my basis for everything. Hard work and consistency, and being with those guys in the truck in the early days really kind of molds you, man. This is really hard work.
What'd you learn about being in the truck with the guys? What'd you learn about leadership?
You know, everybody is not like you. You know, you've got to realize that there's different personalities. There's different types. There's different ways to get the same.
Different way to motivate people, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. My dad used to say there's different ways to skin a cat, right? You know, so his way may be not my way, but it's going to look good in the end. It's going to please the customer, and we're going to be successful in the end. So there was a lot of that as far as the product goes, as far as the end product of the service we were providing goes, that I had to learn, hey, it doesn't have to necessarily be my way, because before that it was me working. You know, it was like, it was me, and maybe I had some help, and it was going to be my way. And then as we grew a crew, then you really have to have some trust. Obviously some training, but some trust in your guys to say, it doesn't necessarily have to be done the way I want to do it, but we have to reach the same result. So there's some leadership lessons in there that definitely stuck with me through the years.
I know we had talked earlier, and you mentioned something about work ethic, and I think you come from the school that I do as well. My dad was a workaholic. I know your dad, he is too, and so we both sort of inherited in our DNA a work ethic that's insane. At some point you realize not everybody shares that work ethic. So how did you deal with that?
I mean, just a quick story. My dad, I remember this was kind of the work ethic that was instilled in me. I remember him as a kid. He had a paper route when he was in college. As a kid growing up, he used to get up at 2 or 3 in the morning, go to the office, work for a few hours, come back, eat breakfast with us, and then go work a full day.
Wow.
And so if there wasn't some of that drilled into you at an early age, that was kind of the life we lived. And what we saw him do it, and we kind of tried to replicate, and he pushed us to do the same. I would say for the first 5 or 6 years, it was really difficult for me. I almost like resent the fact that why don't you have this drive? Why don't you, and the past few years, we've started to understand, hey, obviously, like you said, not everybody's the same. Not everybody has that passion. There's a certain level that we expect you to have.
Sure.
Anything below that is not satisfactory. But above, there's a good range here where we can work with. And so it's like, now it's not, maybe we don't have to go above and beyond in your crew, but you've got to meet these minimum expectations, and we feel like we can do a really good job of molding you into, the people that we need each other to be. So
Is there anything that you can think of maybe along the way, and I'm only asking this to help other people,
yeah.
that leadership mistakes that you may have made?
Mm-hmm.
Can you think of anything in particular? I know I made every
Yeah.
mistake in the book pretty
Yeah.
much, but you learn from it,
Right.
and you go
Right.
on. I think we all do that.
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering if anything comes to mind.
As of recent, I would say, obviously I'm still learning and growing and kind of really developing myself as a leader instead of, like 4 or 5 years ago, I was just the guy in the field, I would say through the hiring process for me, I've struggled recently with, I really find good teammates. We find really good team members. But my personality is, again, we go back to expecting them to have the same mindset that I have, figure it out, whatever it takes. So I've struggled recently with finding the time and the ability to really cast a vision for those team members. And like we're hiring a lot of new people now that we've never had that position in our company before, an account manager, a sales guy. So how do I cast a vision and give them, hey, this is what your job looks like. This is where we're going to go in the next few years. And obviously they're great team members. They're the right seats, the right people in the right seats. But am I giving them everything that they need to succeed? Right. And so that's really what I've been working on recently.
That's good.
Before that, I think there's, just struggles as a leader, I guess. I don't know. There's quite a few things that I've learned over the years, but that's probably the biggest one that I've struggled with recently is making sure that those team members know what the vision is, what's
Casting
your
the
future,
vision.
right? Yeah, casting that vision also, but not only a 2 to 3 or 5 year vision. It's like what does your day to day look like? What are expectations set? And so that's something that I've like I said, not everybody's going to have the same figure it out mentality. Put them in their position, and if you don't tell them what to do, how are they gonna succeed? So
that kind of follows, what you were saying. I'm sort of an operations guy. And again, I can relate because my business was IT consulting, and so that's what I did.
Right.
And I had no experience at being a CEO.
Exactly. Yes.
So you're much more comfortable out there in the field,
Yes,
doing stuff. So tell me about the transition from being that operations guy to becoming the CEO.
Yeah.
What had to change for you to kind of take on that role?
Yeah, I mean, probably year 5, or maybe between year 3 and 5 is when I got out of the truck. And so then I started taking on a sales role, account management role. But I was still very heavily involved, obviously, in those day-to-day operations. But there's certainly a mindset shift that's had to happen over the last few years, and I still feel myself, every day. It's really hard for me when all the guys are getting there in the mornings, they're loading up trucks. It's really hard for me. I want to sneak around that corner, and instead of sitting down at the computer, I want to go around there and make sure, hey, let's check the tire pressure on these things and, check the blades or be with the guys. And that's kind of where my heart is. But I realize to grow this business and to impact the number of people that I want to double the size of our team in the next 3 years.
Wow.
How am I going to do that if I'm out there checking tire pressure on mowers, right? So delegating those jobs and giving people the vision and the task to be able to handle those jobs while I'm kind of setting that vision, becoming the, getting us where we need to go, I guess.
So I know early on, when I was aware that you sort of had this business, I think you were doing residential primarily. In fact, I think you mowed a few yards for me.
Yes.
I remember back in the day. And then, but you had a pivot somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
So you weren't really doing residential anymore. You were doing more corporate things. So tell me about that pivot. How did that come about?
I've always been kind of like a dreamer, kind of like I've been good at emulating other companies too. So if I see a big company, and when I was a kid, I was like, man, I would really love to be like those guys, clean uniforms, good looking trucks. And they always were working on the nice big commercial properties. And so just naturally, I started to market to those people, graduate into a few of those properties here and there. And then I would say maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I had a guy approach me about an acquisition. Private equity started getting into the landscape industry really heavily. And he said, our buy box, if you will, is commercial maintenance companies. And I thought, well, I'm a maintenance company. That's what I'm good at. I need to really quickly start to transition to
So
the
it
commercial
was a
side.
strategic decision on your part.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, initially we started just getting a few here and there, but we were all over the board. We had a lot of residential, and so no real honed in. But once we heard that, and I kind of had that feeling in the back of my mind, that's where we needed to go. But once we heard that, it was like a kind of off to the races.
Was it a pain point letting go of the residential and going after the corporate? Because
still is
residential was comfortable. You had it. It was easy, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of had to let that go and go after something you didn't have.
Right.
Was that painful?
More than anything.
Uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable, painful, yes. More than anything, those people were like, I've been on their property every week for years. And those people are my friends, and I've built relationships with those people, and it wasn't as much painful as losing those relationships and people trying to understand, well, why are you letting me go? Why we're paying our bill on time, and so that was difficult. My kind of fix for that was always trying to find them somebody that I felt was me 5 years ago, and that could try to help them and build that relationship and kind of try to take them back to where we were. I never wanted to leave somebody high and dry middle of the season as much as I could. So if I could help it, I guess. So that was the switch to commercial was definitely kind of like a light switch.
Yeah.
Light switch moment.
So again, you started from nothing, just a few little residential yards. Yeah. And I believe you were telling me your revenue either last year or this year, $5 million.
Yes, yeah.
It's crazy. Will.
That should be. Hopefully, this year we'll hit the 5 million mark. Yeah,
and 35, 40 employees.
Right. Yeah, I think the first year we did about 50,000.
That's incredible. Yeah, Congratulations.
So I've been super blessed and.
So what's your vision? Yeah, you hadn't arrived. You don't think you've arrived, right?
No. I mean, you have to stay humble, right? You have to stay to the point where we want to build. I would never. I'm 34, so I'm like. Never in my wildest dreams would I just sit back and kind of coast. Yeah. I've certainly got a vision of the next 3 to 5 years of potentially positioning ourselves for sale. I don't think that's something I'm super worried about right now, but the PE guys are knocking, man. So I don't know why the landscape industry, who would have thought landscaping, cutting grass could turn into that, but right now it's just like, really would love to double the size of our team in the next 3 to 5 years. And that's
what's your biggest challenge right now? Right as we sit here today, what is sort of the biggest thing on your list of like I need to fix this or I need to do this?
I am sometimes my own worst enemy. I'm the bottleneck of a lot of things in our company right now. Okay. And I'm trying to solve those problems. There's barriers in the landscape industry when you're in the maintenance side of things. $1 million is the first barrier. I think it's like 87% of landscape companies never make it past $1 million in revenue. Wow! And so it's maybe wrong there, but it's a very high number. So the next one is 3 million, and then the next bottleneck, and they typically say 5 million is the last bottleneck that the owner can hold himself. Like he can still be in the operations, be in account management, be in sales, and then if you want to make it to $7-8 million, you've got to be completely out of those things and really focus on putting the right people in the right seats. And that's the challenge I'm going up against right now. It's like, who can I bring onto the team? How can I cast the vision and give them the right tools to get us to the next level? And honestly, the people that I have brought in are doing a much better job than I could have ever done. So they're honed in. This is their area of expertise. This is what they work on. How
does that make you feel? Is there some jealousy there, or are you like, no, I'm glad?
Awesome, I love it.
There you go.
I love it. I would. So my brother is 10 years younger than me. He just started about 8 months ago as an account manager, and I would absolutely be thrilled to see him exceed all expectations, and he has been so far. That's so. Operations guy who's doing exactly, and I love seeing them succeed. I want the best for them. I want them to be able to provide for their families even more abundantly than they have in the past. So growth on all aspects. It's not just revenue growth. It's like that's honestly, I'm not a really numbers guy. I'm like that's kind of the last thing. I'm like team. How do I build this team? I want to have a good time. I want to enjoy my teammate. I want them to come to this business and feel like they're a part, like we're all building something. And it's been a really good attitude to have versus numbers first and team second.
So you mentioned team several times. You talk about the guys and building a team and the sort of the culture. Is there anything in particular that you have found is really key to building that corporate culture, if you will, so that people enjoy coming to work and enjoy working for Proscapes?
Yeah. I mean, there's two different sides of our business. You know, there's like the guys that are in the field, and then there's the team we have that's in the office. Both have their own kind of challenges, you know, and positive sides. I would say, in probably the last 2 years, we've started to implement things with the crew guys that before it was just, you know, we trust you, just go do your thing. And now it's like we're having team huddles every morning. We're doing jumping jacks together. We're stretching out. We're trying to build some, you know, we've got core values. We pray every morning together. We do some things to just help the team understand that I'm here for you personally. We're not just here just to get the yards done and get home, you know. So we do barbecues and we do some outings and events and things like that. We have all the guys over at my house 3 or 4 times a year. A couple years ago, I took a few guys down to Destin, Florida. So it's just like, how do I make them know that they're in the best position, in the best landscape company in Nashville? There's no other option. I don't want them even thinking about that there's another opportunity for. There's a ton of other competition.
Sure.
Right. And they would die to have a lot of my
more than just a paycheck.
Right. But it's like, man, we're having a good thing. We're building a great thing here. And so that's kind of on what we've been doing on the team side, guys. On the office team, I felt more, you know, we have that already. We have my brother, Josh is my operations manager. He's been with me for 9 years. He started with me on early days.
Wow.
But for them, I feel like it's been a lot about, we've tried to implement like an EOS system and do some, you know, give them some objectives, you know, team objectives, individual objectives. Hey, this is what we're looking at this quarter. This is what we're building. You know, this is where we want to be 3 years from now.
Vision casting.
Instead of just giving it, me having those and holding those in, it's like, hey guys, this is what we're doing, and how are we going to get there? And hearing from them, I've never been like, hey, it's my way, guy. It's like, guys, how are we going to do this? This is what I think we should do. You know, this is where I think we should go. How are we going to get there? And I'd love to hear your opinions. And so
I can tell why you're being successful and why you don't have to look for workers anymore. People are
coming to you. It's been a real blessing.
Congratulations. You've done really well. Well, I know you mentioned the prayer in the morning, and I know you're a man of faith as I am. And so how does faith influence your leadership in business?
Yeah. There's so much there. I feel as if like early days, you know, I was just, I didn't spend a lot. I know your podcast, The Calling and the Climb, and the calling, a lot of young people, as I was 10 years ago, want that calling from God. Who want to hear from God about like, am I doing the right thing? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? And I never really felt that like, this is exactly what you're supposed to be doing. And only until recently. You know, the last couple of years, I've started to feel like, man, God has given me this platform. Like I have 35 guys and I'm meeting with them every morning. This is like the best opportunity that I could ever have to bring the gospel to these guys. And so that to me, faith in the beginnings of my business was just me. It was me holding it in. And now it's like, wow, God's given me this real true opportunity to be in front of people and to lead people and to be trusted by people. And now that we've built that trust up, I feel like I can start introducing, you know, my faith and what I believe. And so, faith obviously has been a big part. And on the family side too, it's like, if you don't have that core rock with my family that we can all fall back on, that we can trust in. I've never really been an anxious person, you know, with big decision upcoming. I sleep pretty good at night, you know, and I attribute that to the relationship I've got with God to say, this is in your hands. You know, this is in your hands, and I'm gonna try to make the best fork. When I come to the fork in the road, I'll try to make the best decision I possibly can with your guidance.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna know that this is kind of your will be done, God, and I'm not gonna fret too much over it.
That's awesome. So you talked about your wife. I know you got 3 beautiful kids.
Yes.
So you're a busy guy at home as well. So
man.
how do you balance business and family?
I go back to that. Like I'm not super anxious about stuff. Somehow over the past few years, I guess it's been almost mandatory with 3 kids. But when I come home in the afternoons, I do my best to cut off and be with them. You know, be where I'm at, I guess, is the key. I do get up pretty early in the mornings, get to the office, have a full day. But when I'm with my family, I'm like, that's the most important thing. So I feel like I've done well juggling the two. There was a time last year, if you got a quick second, that my wife was diagnosed with GBS, Guillain-Barré syndrome. So she was in the hospital for almost a month. That was like 3 weeks. And that was a real test. That was a real test of like, what kind of man are you? You know, it's like you got the kids. My parents obviously helped out a bunch. My wife was sick. We got the business to run. That was a real test for me personally, for the business, and so blessed and grateful that God pulled her. You know, and she's 110% now. But there's a lot of leadership lessons learned right there of, you know, God, what are we going to do here? You know, my wife's in the hospital. There's so much pressure on me individually to lean, and I'm leaning back on him saying, you know, we're going to get through this. We're going to figure this out.
Yeah. All right. So closing question, Will. When you were 12 years old, pushing that mower, you remember that day,
yes.
right?
Yes.
What would that young guy think if he could see the company you've built today? Young Will.
Yeah. Wow. I would almost say the 12-year-old probably wouldn't care that much, but the 17, 18-year-old would certainly be impressed.
Okay.
Yeah, he would definitely be impressed. Maybe impressed for about 30 seconds, then he'd say, "All right, this is. I knew you could do."
Okay. One step further.
Yeah.
Then. What would he recognize in you today that he had back then?
I would say consistency, potentially. Yeah, you know, I feel like the last 20 years of my life of just those values that my dad instilled in me. I might not have been on the right path the entire time, but I just kept doing. Yeah. Just kept beating my head against the wall, and we're gonna figure this out eventually.
That's awesome.
And so the 18-year-old would look and say, well, it kind of makes sense. He just kept going, and it finally worked out. You know, so the consistency key, I think, is kind of what he would see.
Well, it certainly has worked out. It is working out. You're still growing, and the sky really is the limit. But I'm so excited for where you've come to this point, the 10-year mark.
Yeah.
And excited to see where you take this thing, Will. Congratulations on all your success.
Thank
you so much for spending some time with us, sharing your experiences, and maybe I'll have you back once you sell it. And
let's go. Yes, sir.
Plan on $1 billion or whatever it is.
Maybe we'll see. Plan on, and we'll see what the next phase is.
There will be something after that.
Yeah, we got to figure that out first before you get too far. But
thank you, Will.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Really grateful to be here.
Thanks.